Hello and welcome to Emma's ESL English. In this podcast, I'm going to be working on answering your questions around anything to do with ESL English. This podcast is aimed at intermediate to advanced students. Your questions could be about anything that you've come across. Perhaps you're reading a book, reading some articles, watching some TV, listening to some podcasts, and you've come across some kind of obscure thing, or maybe it's something that looks like it should be really easy, but you just can't find the answer on Google. So, what I'd like you to do is send your questions in to me. You can email those and we'll have a look. If you can catch the whole sentence, that's really helpful. What I'll do is for the first few sessions, do a little bit of an introduction about myself and then some questions, perhaps from some of my students, so that you know what kind of things maybe you can put forward. My main goal is to really just help you up-level your English. So whatever you're coming across that's not clear, you can ask here. So a little bit about me, as is pretty obvious from the name of the podcast. My name is Emma. I'm from the UK and I've been an ESL English teacher for about 10 years now. I got my CELTA qualification, and at first I was teaching English in South Korea, and I stayed in South Korea for about 7 years. I had a slight interlude in Italy for 6 months, and then I went back to Korea. So that's where most of my face-to-face English teaching was. And then I came back to the UK, and I've worked in all sorts of sectors in the UK. I've worked in retail, I've worked in the charity sector, worked in HR. And then when I came back to the UK, I started teaching online. And my first online place was a Chinese company. So for 2 years, I was teaching mostly Chinese children, but also some adults as well. And then I've now moved to an international teaching website. So my students are from all over the world, mostly adults, but really from all over the world. And that's been really, really helpful for me to try and start understanding the challenges that people face depending on where they come from. Obviously, that does influence how easy or difficult English is for you. Some of the pronunciation can be really challenging. Some languages just don't have that sound, just as English doesn't have some sound. So it can be really difficult for some pronunciation things. And that really is just muscles in your mouth. So it really is just practicing, just like you go to the gym. I don't go to the gym, but just like maybe you go to the gym, it's just practicing with those muscles in your mouth. And once you've got used to doing it, it's easier to reach that sound. A lot of my students were educated in their English at school. So probably you spent a lot of time learning grammar at school, learning a lot of vocabulary, but putting that into action and turning it into conversation can be quite challenging. But also, English doesn't follow the rules. You might have noticed that. It's very common in English that we have this whole set of rules and then the native speakers start breaking them. And people who aren't native speakers start finding new ways to say things. Languages are always evolving. So there could be things that come up in, for example, TV shows that are not in your rule book and have broken what you thought was a really obvious rule. So you can always tell me about that and see if we can figure out what's going on there. I'll go into a little more next time, but basically, this podcast, I'm aiming for it to be pretty short, hopefully, a little bit of listening practice for you. Hopefully, I can answer any of your questions. And you can be sure if you have that question, somebody else in the world is thinking about and wondering about that too. So, really, any questions you have are going to be helpful, not just for you, but for other learners too. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you and finding out more about you and seeing how I can help you with your English. As I mentioned before, you can get in touch with me. I have a website, which is www.emmaseslenglish.com. And then you can also email me, emmaseslenglish@gmail.com. If you have any questions, that's where to send them. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.